Welcome to a Psychic Bullet Dude Soup for reasons that will become apparent soon. Or if you're already psychic, you already know. This episode is sponsored by two sponsors, 1-800-Flowers and Sherry's Berries, because yes, Valentine's Day is quickly approaching.
Ooh.
You can order 18 red roses for only $29.99 or upgrade to 24 for just $10 more by going to 1-800-Flowers.com/dudesoup. And you can get a Sherry's Berries berry pack. That's what I call it because I like saying the word berry. For $19.99 by going to berries.com, clicking on the microphone in the upper right-hand corner, and then typing in dude soup. But I'll describe that in more detail in the future.
Because of psychicism.
Psychicism.
Yeah.
Psychicism.
You already know, actually, if you're the appropriate dude soup listener.
What?
Precogs, they call us.
Yes, indeed. So today we have a very special guest arranged by James Williams because of his fantastic inroads into the game development community.
I have one inroad into the game development community, and all I had to do was pay for it.
What? We paid him?
Well, no. James paid into it.
Oh, I see.
Stinks.
Yes.
So
What?
because
I thought
told
you just
you.
smelled Adam.
because
You
James
just went,
is,
it stinks, and looked at him.
I am a
Sorry.
he.
Sorry, Lawrence, go ahead.
James is balls deep into Fig. Got way too many investments and assets tied up in.
I'm
game
actually not
production now.
invested in any Fig things.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't
Oh,
do
never
the
mind.
investment thing because I didn't want it to compromise my integrity.
Oh, okay, I see.
Something for which
shaking
I
her
am known.
Yes, we're all games journalists here.
Yeah.
And as such, James paid a fantastic amount of money to get Tim Schafer on the podcast today. So in about 4 minutes, I'll call him as promised. He asked for a specific time because I'm going to assume he had to run to the bathroom and, burn all the paperwork that I was going to find.
Let's cut to our feet of Tim's bathroom.
Yeah.
Well, we did a test with him earlier, and he was arranging things in the back of his office.
Yeah, he was
trying to
looked like
make
he
it
was
look
hiding
like that.
things.
He's hiding.
What's he doing?
It was a facade. It's all fake.
He knew it was going to be a gotcha interview. He said it.
We go get you.
Well, that's why I gave him a grace period to delete all the emails. So
We hit a microphone in the 1-800-Flowers we sent him. It's there right now.
He threw those away.
we were just trying to butter him up. Well, now we got 3 minutes of time to fill. So you guys want to
boy.
talk more about AIDS?
Harry
I
Potter.
watched
No.
Riverdale yesterday.
Oh, boy, here we
and I've
go.
been telling anyone who will or will not listen.
This is the 3-minute section of the beginning of the podcast where we just kind of update everyone on new trending topics. Go ahead, Riverdale. That
Riverdale.
100
No,
Second
God,
book.
no. Did anyone beat Resident Evil yet?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay.
I think we're close.
Well,
I beat the first episode
right
of
in there.
Riverdale. So
I want to hear Riverdale. Talk
I wanna hear about
All right, tell me about Riverdale.
Then I can
wins.
make my
It's only
joke.
3 minutes. Don't worry. It's
I
only
I can
know.
make my joke for the 100th time. Go
Archie
ahead.
Comics and Friends now live on the CW in a sexy murder mystery show.
That's the thing at the grocery store, right?
Yeah, I used to buy that when I was like Bruce had his drawer of Star Wars books. I had a drawer full of Archie comics.
There you
So
go.
now for my joke.
What'd you do with yours?
Oh, trashed it too.
Yeah, that's
Elise was never interested in like the sexy murder dramas like Liars and Lying Game.
Oh, Pretty Little Liars
Liars, and even stuff like True Blood and
Gossip
stuff
Girl,
never
yeah.
interested her. Vampire Diaries, none of the things got her. The only thing that got her into like sexy teen dramas was that it's based off a 100-year-old comic book.
It's a relic from our time.
It does make sense.
I was giving commentary to James too as I was watching it. I was like, "Oh, Archie's having sex with
Were
his
you in the
teacher."
room?
And
Were
I
you in
was
the
on my
room?
phone.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
going to say.
I
So,
thought
hold on a minute.
Archie's got a constant love
There's a
triangle.
six-pack now.
There is a love triangle with Betty and Veronica, of course.
What?
One sits on
Sounds
his
more like a love
face.
square. Yeah.
Moose
That's
is,
how it works.
Moose is a closet homosexual.
So wait, if you haven't seen any of the litany of other sexy teen dramas, do you feel equipped to compare Riverdale to those offerings?
No, but it feels a lot like
No, we can move on.
if
then.
it feels a lot like if somebody took Twin Peaks and what's good about Twin Peaks and said, "Let's make it a shitty show on the CW."
Wait, it's weird? Like Riverdale's odd? It's
supposed to be like creepy.
Well,
It's kind of Stepford Wivesy.
Oh, okay.
It begins when these two twins, this brother and sister, go out rowing a boat on the lake, and then one of them, the brother, dies.
How?
He
We don't
reached
know.
down. She dropped her glove.
Call
and he
me when
reached
it
and
happens.
Wait, he
the
just
boat flipped over
drops
and he
dead
drowned,
on
and they
the
couldn't
boat?
find the
Oh,
body.
he drowned, but we
Or-
don't know the circumstances.
Whoa.
Is there any talks of crossovers, possibly with Family Circus or Calvin
Well,
and or Hobbs?
Josie and the Pussycats are already in it.
Oh,
They've
I
already
About that
shown up.
Comedy Central show Drawn Together is all of those people together.
Yes,
Kind of.
Yes,
Drawn Together
Yes.
was good though.
it's just old comics.
Wow. I want to see Riverdale.
In other
Oh no,
news,
I'll watch it.
I'll watch it on the
Yeah,
plane.
yeah. Watch it on the plane.
it's not terrible.
Yeah.
It's just it's fine.
Yeah, I'll watch
The
No.
thing is, they always do this with stuff like this where they reboot or whatever. They still hold on to like the archaic pieces of the old stuff. So like Archie walks into this diner and there's this guy and he's been narrating the whole show.
Jughead.
Oh, it's
And then,
like
but then Archie
Gone for
comes in and he
Journals?
goes, "Hey, Jughead," and I'm like,
You went,
Well, no, I'm just like it's not like why is he like it makes sense that Jughead is Jughead in the comics because he's like, dude, I wear fake hair and I'm Jughead, right? But this is just a dude in a beanie, and it's like, well, why is he called Jughead?
Yeah.
His beanie's kind of shaped like Jughead's.
No one knows why he's called Jughead.
is he stupid?
No, he's smart.
It's a hacker guy. He's kind of like
Oh, well, they put a twisted
He's
on
a
its head.
Lawrence type.
That's what they did. They made it. They turned it around on you.
They should call him Smart Head.
none of the
Nice.
characters need to be Archie characters. That's my favorite thing about it.
Yeah, I was gonna say it seems like the Riverdale thing is like, well, we got this license.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
But in the
Slap
first
it on Cloverfield style.
And it's 10. All
in
right.
the first 5 minutes, they show Archie and Betty with their shirts off.
Whoa.
Okay, that's pretty sweet.
Wait, nips? No
Come on,
nips.
come
You
on.
don't get
Nips.
Not,
got full
in,
nips
not,
or
in-
not?
not on the
Whoa.
C dub.
I hear
That's your
him.
new overlord.
Gotcha.
Hi, Tim.
Gotcha.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi,
Hi.
Tim.
Hey, Tim.
Hi.
Hi.
Am I here? Am I alive?
You
You are.
You are
Awesome.
alive.
Woo!
So, Tim
Hi,
Schafer,
guys.
thank you for joining
Hi,
us.
everybody.
For the audience who may not know, because we accept all types here. Tim Schafer is a bit of a name, as basically associated with a bunch of classic point and clicks from LucasArts, but lately has headed up Double Fine, which has produced a lot of awesome games. Most recently, Headlander, I think is the most
Headlander.
recent.
There you go.
Aha!
Yeah, you got it.
Gotcha. That's the first gotcha of the evening.
You nailed me.
Sticking you to the wall.
Discharged.
But I think this is kind of special because James is a huge Psychonauts fanatic.
Yeah.
No.
As well as Tim Schafer's other junk.
Well, Adam's a fan too.
Sure. I think they're fighting over who likes you more at this point. So
I've told this story before, but growing up, I was a Mac kid. I didn't have a PC, and the only games I had was the LucasArts collection. So I played a lot of Day of the Tentacle, and a lot of Sam Max at the Road, and
Full
a lot
Throttle,
of Full Throttle. Those were that got me through a lot of hard times. Thanks, Tim.
We had one like Mac Devo, a guy who was really into Macs at Lucas, and he insisted that we port them all over. So it's that one guy. He was doing it as a pirate at first. He was like a kid who was porting all our games to the Mac illegally, and so they sent him a cease and desist letter, and then they hired him.
Wow.
Nice.
That's really cool.
That's who you owe.
I thank him wholeheartedly for having not such a sad childhood.
I do love Adam's personal tales of woe. So
Thanks.
I've got some more, I guess, far-reaching, deeper questions because that's typically what I got. So if you guys have any
Well,
lighthearted,
but
fluff,
we
now's
should
the
talk
time.
about why
Here's my
Tim is
gotchas.
here specifically.
Oh, sure.
It's not because we just like him so much.
Right.
Why not? We like him so much.
Well, so I
was
mean,
told it was going to be liked.
yeah, I think we all collectively love your creative work, but of course, right now you've got a product coming out. I mean, I feel like Double Fine is always kind of cycling on to the next product, so that's not super uncommon. But I guess the next on deck is Psychonauts: Rhombus of Ruin.
Yeah, our first VR game ever, and our second Psychonauts game. So
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that. I mean, you'll have plenty of time. I'll give you all the ad space runway you need to plug your product. But in terms of Psychonauts,
it has no toilets in it. That's why James is not in. If it had a toilet, you'd be in there.
It's funny because that's already a lie because I played it at E3 and there is a toilet.
One toilet.
they promised that role years ago. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
James.
There's a guy sitting on it the whole time, so you can't hear his voice very clearly.
Yeah. If you listen though, like you can they did get a little bit of me. It's muffled me and it's quiet.
Really?
You have to isolate the track, but there's me and it's a kind of muttering from the inside.
Tim, is that true?
Up
Is that
into-
true, Tim?
Of course, that's not true, or you would have gotten a check from us.
Oh right.
I think you can hear me in there too. Whoa,
The
actually.
other way. I don't know. Personally, given that Psychonauts was Double Fine's first product, does this feel like a bit of a victory lap for Double Fine as an entire company? Given that it's been successful, or at least it has existed for 10 years, which, as far as I'm concerned, is a success. Is that kind of how you see it? Is it a moment of reflection?
Well, I mean, that's a good question because we first started that game, we had no idea what we were doing, and we know just like a little bit more now, and we've been around for 16 years, so it's nice to look at those characters and be able to ask ourselves, like, what would we do now that we're geniuses and know everything? What would we do with those characters now? And it's just not. It was amazing to do that. We launched that campaign for Psychonauts 2, and then the next day, as soon as that was over, we were in the studio recording Richard Horvitz and the actors who played Raz and and it was just wow, we're really back in this world talking about Sasha and Mia and all these characters. So it was great to go back in that world so quickly. I mean, so quickly, like 10 years later.
Yeah, I was catching up on the documentary about Broken Age, and it was kind of fascinating. I mean, it's all fascinating through and through, but the thing that struck me as particularly curious is you launched the campaign without really knowing what the game would be yet, but it feels like with Psychonauts 2 and Rhombus of Ruin, you clearly have a starting point. So how much work does that save you in creatively to have the characters and the world already built?
Yeah, and also some of the story. You know, I'd written some of the story back when we did Psychonauts 1. I had this idea for how this would continue. We planted some of the seeds in the first game. So it's been a lot of help just knowing that, we know what the characters roughly look like, and it's only a day later. Like, it takes place, like, the next day. So their clothes are a little bit older, but not that much older. So that does help. But we also have to figure out ways to make it really fresh and have good things change, even though it's only like 24 hours later.
I'm curious, just in terms of like a development decision, the VR game plays a lot to me, from what I tested of it, plays a lot like one of the old school point and click adventure games. Yet Psychonauts itself was like kind of more of it was a platformer. It was like kind of against a lot of the things that you were known for at the time. So was that a conscious decision, or is that just kind of like, we really want to do VR and this is the best way to do it? Or we want to go back and try that kind of game again?
Well, we wanted to do a Psychonauts game in VR, and I always get really sick when I do VR. Like I'm very susceptible to any sort of simulation sickness, and even though a lot of people who've done third person like moving camera stuff, I'm like, let's have you. What if you're strapped to a chair? And so that decision came from, and then. It took us for a while. We were actually developing and realized, like, hey, this is kind of like a point and click. You realize when you take out the jumping and the running and all that stuff. So it was a little bit more accidental.
Cool.
Are some of your best designs end up being that way? It's a process of cutting out what doesn't work, and then incidentally you arrive on what happens to be a pretty harmonious idea.
Yeah, that sounds better than accidental. I take back saying accidental and make it what you said.
All right. I'm putting up the business cards right now.
It evolved dynamically. Put it that way. Yeah, I mean, you have to I feel like the most important thing in making a game is to listen to the game itself. It's talking to you when you're designing it, and it's like I don't want to be a platformer anymore. Like I want to be this. Psychonauts 2 will be a platformer though.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. Yes.
I was concerned.
Since there's been
the game kind of tells you what it wants to be at a certain point.
Yeah, that's cool.
Since there's been so much time that's passed, do you feel now like you're trying to reintroduce Psychonauts to a new generation of players, or are you like, these damn millennials, they don't appreciate summer camp, like they're not going to get my game? Do you feel like you have to change your narrative at all?
I probably should think about that a lot more.
Gotcha.
Or, what is it that you millennials like? Like Pokemon didn't? Yeah.
Just add Pokemon.
They like going outside now.
Yeah, weird. We're trying to mostly, and we're always trying to get a better game and think about what we've learned about playing games and making games in all the years, but we're still trying to put our headspace in the Psychonauts world and just what makes sense for these characters and what makes sense for Psychonauts. So it's not like some big departure, and now, you don't have to go outside. Relax. You don't have to go outside to play Psychonauts.
I get to go to summer camp in my own room. Thank God.
I was gonna ask Tim, since you've been making games like from the early days of like point and click and stuff. What did you ever think VR would ever be an actual thing for games? Like, because as long as I remember, it's always been kind of a pipe dream.
We had, we had a big rush of it in the 90s, and kind of there was a parody of it in Sam and Max. And VR was like Lawnmower Man, there's a lot of this VR hype, and then it kind of like everyone was like, oh, it's actually, the early ones were not that great. And so I actually was more surprised that it went away. And just even like before Rift made a big splash, I was like, I wonder why VR never took off, because, that really is, it feels like something they could. So basically, I invented VR. Thought of it, but I'm glad it's back, and I was not like one of the early adopters either. Like I didn't really want to be wearing a helmet all the time, and like I said, I get motion sick. And as we've been developing this game, and you kind of you put yourself into this place and you feel really transported. That really does fit well with what we like to do as a studio in general, like take you somewhere foreign and drop you into this fantasy world. I think VR really works really well for that. So It's been a lot of fun to do VR. Did I think it would? So yeah, I'm not surprised, but I don't know. I'm not really good at predicting the future, so I can't really like if you were to ask like some people think it's the future of all games, but I don't know if I would be willing to say that.
I say that all the time.
You say that all the time, really?
Yeah, but I say a lot of dumb things.
It definitely seems like a kind of thing where it's like when you find the right fit, it makes sense. Like we've been taking turns kind of playing Resident Evil 7 in VR, and it's definitely an experience, but I think like it's kind of the experience where Elise and I will play it, and we'll play with a controller for like 2.5 hours at a time. But with VR, it's like you can play for 45 minutes and then you kind of have to stop. It's weird. It almost feels like more like a mobile game type play session is how people are moving into VR than they are with console gaming where they can play all night. Maybe it's just me.
That's why we chopped up. Rhombus Ruin has these definite chapters where you're dealing with Sasha, you're dealing with Mia, so you can like play one little chapter and then take a break from it. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
well,
I did take a lot of breaks in general, but especially with VR.
Yeah, it seems like that. And then it's on the onus is on the developer to kind of put those beats into the game itself. In Resident Evil, at least you can go to a safe room and get a lull and be like, oh shit, I got to go throw up a little bit.
Yeah.
But
I just started that game and people were telling me to play it in VR and I'm too scared to do it. Like but then I'll get sick is my first fear. Like how do they handle you going down the hallway? Do you just move around?
You use the stick, to control yourself, but then you can, I guess, fine tune your looking by just moving your head around. I would recommend trying it, but I've kind of like I did the demo in VR and like nearly had a heart attack, and then Adam played a little bit of the actual game. Adam and Bruce both played a little bit of the actual game and basically played until it was like you got a good scare. And then we're like, all right, next. Like, it kind of works almost like a party game, I
Lawrence,
think.
you played more at home in the VR. What was it?
Yeah. Well, so it's interesting, and to me, it's the difference of bandwidth of input. It's actually easier. The mechanics of playing the game are easier. The emotions of playing it are much harder. So it's super scary, and that actually fucks with you a little bit in terms of how you play. But the mechanics are easier because when you aim, it's so much easier to hit something with the big motions of your head than the tiny motions of a small analog stick. And then, in addition, there are sequences in the game where you're dogged by an invincible monster, basically. And that's handy because you get the fine motion of being able to peek around stuff in 3D. Yeah. So you can look through gaps in geometry to see where something is, where you wouldn't have that motor control with a control stick.
So I'm actually kind of glad about Rhombus Ruined because I think standing still works better for VR currently. When you try to add motion with a controller, there seems to be a disconnect between... You probably went through the same thing, Tim, where that motion sickness comes in where you move one way, your head goes the other, and then your body doesn't know what to do, and you kind of get like, it feels like car sickness or motion sickness.
Yeah. Whereas you don't like, there's a part in Batman where you're jumping between these bat signals really fast down a hallway. Remember, did you play that?
No.
The bat game? You can see a little bat icon and you can jump to it. And that's really fast, and it doesn't make you sick at all, and I don't know why, but like teleporting, like in budget cuts or a game like that, you don't seem to get sick. Yeah. And so we use clairvoyance, so you can see, like in the first game, you can jump into someone else's head and see from their point of view. So you can jump into the head of any character, and that's how you move around the environment. Is you see somebody and you can jump into their brain, and then that person can see someone new, you jump into that one. And when you teleport around, you don't get sick at all. But you can get around a whole different. You can still navigate, but you're just not walking forward.
Well, when I tried it, I liked the aspect that like you had telekinesis. So kind of like Lawrence and Adam were saying, in Resident Evil, when you aim in VR, you move your head, which to me doesn't necessarily make like if it were me, I'd be looking down the hallway screaming, firing behind me, but you can't do that like in Resident Evil. But in what I tried of Rhombus of Ruin, it kind of made sense because that's how in the platformer that preceded it, you would kind of control things. He would like lock on and then he would move his head, and it makes sense that that's how like a psychic would do something.
Powers are coming from your brain.
Yeah.
Brain.
So there's like a point where you're moving like luggage around and you're doing it with your head, and it kind of makes sense that that's the beam like going from the center of your forehead.
powerful brain.
Yeah.
Hey, Tim, I have a confession to make. I've never played the first Psychonauts, and I'm trying to. I know. I apologize. I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure out. Should I? Oh, he left. Should I start? If I play Rhombus of Ruin, will I be totally lost, or is it something that kind of gets me into the Psychonauts world, or how does that work?
And we kind of we drop in all the dialogue when I'm writing it. I write it assuming no one knows anything.
That's great.
And just it might seem like it because I think movies start that way sometimes, where you kind of they just jump right into the action. So you don't need a long intro like this is this person, this is that person.
Yeah.
But we can like try to explain it along the way, so you just feel like you're dropped into an adventure that's already going on. But we do reintroduce who everybody is and what your powers are and all that. So we wrote with people like you in mind. Not that we like you, but we wrote with you in mind.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Tim.
That being said, get off your goddamn
I know.
ass.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
There's no way it can live up to James' preparation.
It sounds
on it.
stupid, but a lot of people, like, just by nature of my screaming about it, like, I'll get tweets and stuff of people going like, hey, just bought it. There's a Steam sale or whatever, and I just bought it and I'm trying it. And I'm like, I hope you enjoy it. And then it could be total bias because people are mean to me on the internet, but people are also really nice. But a lot of times people will come back and then like 2 weeks later, they'll message me and say like, oh, I thought it was really great. I really, really enjoyed it. Thanks for the recommendation.
Yeah, so
You're
he
welcome.
gets all the credit, not you, Tim.
And I say,
basically.
anything for the fans.
Except for that one guy that told you that he was really glad you also liked Awesome Knots.
Yeah, there's a guy who sent me a tweet who was like, I'm so glad you like Awesome Knots. No one ever talks about it. And I just didn't reply. I didn't want to break his heart.
You know what? You're right.
I mean, I have played Awesome Knots, but
Do you like Police Knots? Is that a good one
Yeah.
too? Okay.
So Tim, I'm curious.
Knots.
Yeah, anything with knots, Tim made.
I'm nuts for knots.
Garlic knots. Given that you've been in creative work for decades at this point, what type of and given that you're also making a VR game now, which is on an entirely new platform, kind of requires new mechanics, new UI, new UX, all that stuff. What kind of creativity do you find the most rewarding? Is it working on an established platform to build kind of at least a product that is known by form, so like a traditional box game or something like that? Or do you like entirely new platforms, like switching to mobile when that was new, VR when it's new? Do you enjoy exploring fundamentally new game mechanics?
It's interesting because I've always been someone who would say that ideas are more important than technology, and that you could have made, Tetris on an Atari 2600, and it wasn't the technology holding us back from making a really popular game. It was just the idea. No one had that idea. So like I've always, and part of me is always resisting all the new controllers and everything. Because I'm like, we have all the things we need to make tons of great games. Let's just focus on that. And yet every time one comes out, we always jump on it and try, like, you can make a fun game on this Kinect device. Let's make a Kinect game. Sometimes it works out great, and sometimes it doesn't. But I think in general, I like any kind of creative work because you always start with some sort of constraint. Like, what if you could use a player's body, or what if you're in VR? They all come with new restrictions. Kinect and VR and all the Wiimotes. They all have things you can do that you couldn't do before, but also a whole bunch of stuff you can't do anymore. And but that's a fun challenge. Like, okay, now think about it. What would you do? Because sometimes you need some arbitrary constraints to actually get your creative juices flowing.
Do you ever self-impose those, or do those just happen naturally? I imagine running a company, you're awash with constraints, so it's not like you have to go out finding them.
The main constraint is always money. You're like, well, let's see, how much money do we have?
That makes sense.
Obviously, Rhombus of Ruin is coming out before Psychonauts 2, but did you have an inkling for an idea for Psychonauts 2 before Rhombus of Ruin? Like, which kind of came first in, we should make this, or we should make this?
Yeah, that's interesting, because I had the idea for the story of Psychonauts and how it would continue and how it related to the first game was always there when we were making the first game. We always wanted to have Raz go to headquarters and find out about the Psychonauts and their home base. And but I wasn't going to tell, you leave Psychonauts 1. Psychonauts 1 ends with all the main characters flying off to rescue this guy named Truman Zanotto.
Bruce, cover your ears.
Oh, spoilers.
Bruce, cover your ears.
Everybody dies in a plane crash. But then they fly off. But there's this, like, let's go rescue this guy. And Psychonauts 2 is going to start with them landing, having rescued that person, and then further adventures at headquarters. And we were just going to kind of allude to that. It was kind of like a Back to the Future ending. Like it's not important. Like the actual thing they went off to do is just like they had further adventures. And so I wasn't going to tell that story. And then we wanted to do this VR game and think about where to set it. Is it like a side thing? And it's like, actually, this would be a great opportunity to tell that kind of lost mission story. So you can still play Psychonauts 1, Psychonauts 2, and not play that really. It still makes sense, but this is an opportunity to say, like, how did they, what happened when they went off to rescue Truman Zanato? So it was a little out of order like that.
Tiny hand, I love it.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think that'll about do it for our conversation. However, I wanted your input on something.
Uh-oh, gotcha. moment.
Oh no, here comes the gotcha.
Oh no.
This may disturb you more than me flashing you my moose knuckle before we started.
We gotta talk about that.
Well, we'll cut it out. Oh, it's live. Anyway, so I like weird shit on the internet.
You?
Yes,
No.
it's strange. And as such, I've decided to determine what the best weird shit on the internet is.
Oh right, yes.
In a segment that I'm calling Dude Suit Battle, in which every week we pit one weird thing on the internet versus another weird thing, and we decide which one is better/worst. Again, the goal is not to kink shame, it's to celebrate, but at the same time shame a little bit. So Maskers is currently in the lead. Tim, are you familiar with what Maskers are?
Maskers?
Yeah, go ahead and Google it up.
Just start an image search. Start an image search.
Is this really a thing that I'm going to regret looking up?
Open an incognito window just to be
It's not that
safe.
bad. So,
this is like a full body costume.
you've got
Yeah, like living dolls.
a term applied to men who like to put on rubber living
Video-
doll suits.
Where you're watching a video and you're like, something wrong with that lady.
So that's currently that currently has the belt. We have a new title match today. There is something on the internet called a quicksand fetish.
I don't know that one.
A quicksand fetish is the bizarre arousal of sinking or watching someone sink in a sticky, gooey, or dirty pit of quicksand from an old jungle movie, or something like that.
An old jungle movie.
I'm just sitting around watching some old jungle movies.
Here, Tim, I'll
But it's
send you
funny,
some research
guys,
material.
You realize you're talking about the newest PSVR commercial, right?
Oh boy, nope, haven't seen it yet.
The guy's standing on a shag carpet and he puts on the PSVR and then there's a whoa and he goes like a Nightmare on Elm Street like into the carpet.
This is I like that. I like that it's already so tied in. There's a bunch of people watching PSVR commercials and
That are getting super
They're
hard.
in the
getting super
quicksanding.
hard.
Okay.
I mean,
put up-
calling it a fetish is kind of, you're kind of making it sound really clinical and negative. It's really just a, oh wow, they've combined it. I'm seeing now they combined it with those furries in quicksand.
Yeah, there's that for
A lot
sure.
of crossover potential here. And where's somebody wearing a mask?
Oh, so that's the thing. It's well, I guess you could potentially cross over everything. I'll just pop up a little reference right there, right
Let me
next to
see
Tim's
if it's-
face there.
Okay. All right. So
so,
that's
I
a
gotta-
woman
gotta skip
walking. We
forward a
see a
little bit.
woman walking
When
through
does she go in
grass.
quicksand? There we
Okay,
go.
she's stuck.
So this is
There
actually
it is.
this is a subset of damsels in peril fetish, which is another thing that people
Yeah.
like to masturbate to.
Oh, is there a specific person who has to be trapped in the sand?
Just any woman who is distressed at her being trapped in sand or some other fluid.
She's got a scantily
Well,
little
also,
Yeah,
if you
she's
think
wearing a
about
skirt.
it, if you think about it, now I may be reading too much into this, but if someone's stuck in quicksand, what do? You throw them the tail end of a snake,
Yeah.
right, to pull them out, which also has kind of a phallic kind of perception to it.
Oh, I
Tim
didn't think
didn't
about
sign
that.
up for this.
So it's
Sorry,
almost
Tim.
No, I'm really into it. And by into it, I mean I'm into both masking and
yeah. Oh, okay, that's a much higher quality
But
version.
when you're talking about trying to figure out which one wins this competition, is it like which one is better?
Which one's internet and harder?
Which one is interneting harder?
Well,
Like
there's
the
no
whole
G.
totality of creepiness and also shocking.
Sort of what makes you both disturbed but happy that someone out there is living their dream.
I think you can qualify it however you like.
Man, I mean the masking stuff has a certain like Buffalo Bill like serial killer vibe to it
Sure.
that is really horrific. And also sweaty. It just looks like it would be really sweaty. Like those are latex, right?
We did discuss it. We discussed it briefly last week, and I had seen there's a really good Vice documentary about it, and I think a lot of them, before they put on the suit, wear a diaper because you basically seal yourself in, and you're not going to be able to get out for like the next. You have to commit to it for like a 12, 15-hour period. It's basically an international flight, and so. So they wear diapers so that way they don't have to take it off to go to the bathroom. They could just go.
So which one do you like more?
So I don't know how that.
You could just go in quicksand too. It's fine.
true.
quicksand seems like a lot more lighthearted fun, whereas the masking seems like that's something really important to these people.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's a
It seems
passion
like more of it's like an identity transformation thing, whereas a quicksand thing is more like the sound of dog food coming out of a can turns you on.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get together with your pals.
It's just
Okay.
a fun weekend getaway.
So to you, what is more important? Not necessarily you personally,
Appealing.
but I guess what do you think counts for more?
There can be only one winner,
And
Tim.
again, masking seems like the kind of thing that it's the kind of thing that you would really only know about because of the internet. Like only on the internet could this
Oh,
exist.
I guess that's fair.
That's valid.
Those all those old
Good
Jungle
point.
movies.
Should we cast our votes?
So
Or do you
yeah,
just
it sounds
analyze?
Tim. You're
I
down for
think-
masking, winning this.
Tim
I
gets
think
ultimate
masking
say.
is like 20% more internet.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. There we have it.
Okay.
Yep.
How about you guys? Do you
Oh,
think?
while I like quicksand a lot,
Yeah.
I think masking is still on the internet harder.
Yeah.
I agree. I
Wow.
still think that there's a lot more effort going into the masking, and quickstanding is kind of lazy, and so I can't
And-
admire it as much.
Can I point out one more reason why masking actually beats quicksanding?
Yeah. Sure.
Masking would actually literally defeat death by quicksand, because if you're wearing a full body mask,
true.
fell into the quicksand, you could cut the top of it off, and it would be like a washer.
Oh yeah.
True. You can
Out
escape
of
it
costume and be safe.
and
So
leave your
one
diaper
literally-
behind, and no one knows.
Okay. I guess
that-
masking wins.
Filled your mask with mud, it would probably be really soothing and less sweaty.
It's true, and your skin would
People
get
do that
soft.
right now
Yeah.
to protect us.
Crossover.
Yeah.
You guys, this is a weird segment.
There's a person masking right now in quicksand listening to this podcast going, wow, they're talking about me. I'm that guy. Help.
This entire podcast was meant to empower the disenfranchised. So,
This changes my weekend plans completely.
And it's only Monday.
well, thank you for enduring that, Tim. Is there anything you'd like people to know about Psychonauts 2 or Rhombus of Ruin?
Woo! Well, Rhombus of Ruin comes out February 21st.
Oh wow, soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, soon. And it's on PlayStation VR, and it's awesome, and I hope you like it. And there'll be way more toilets in Psychonauts 2.
Yes. Well, we only need at least
We've
one
heard that
more, I guess.
before,
Well,
Tim.
that makes you less
Promises,
special.
promises.
I auditioned for a couple.
Yeah, Adam auditioned for toilets as well.
It's good.
Yeah, he's in, Elise is in for sure.
Oh wow.
Finally.
Thank you, Tim.
There's a few more maybes.
Okay.
Lifelong dream, lifelong dream.
Whatever you need, Tim, we're here for you.
Wow, she's getting all the way up to her neck. I'm still watching this video.
It's distressing.
She's in trouble. I hope she really trusts that cameraman.
Oh,
There's a
there
whole
is no
playlist there for
cameraman.
you. So.
Where's your mother?
She's deeper.
She's holding the boom.
I've almost got you, Mom. I got your hair. Okay, sorry. Let's stop talking about that. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
All right.
thank you
Bye,
so
Tim.
much.
Thanks, Tim.
Bye.
Enjoy the videos.
All right, bye.
Can I just say I looked up
Oh, no, my email.
quicksanding on Urban Dictionary, and another definition I really like. This is different quicksanding. It's allowing your friend to sink lower and lower into hideousness in order to maintain your attractiveness.
Oh.
Slow and sad sabotage.
I like that.
I like that
So,
quite a bit.
used in a sentence, Carla's blind vision to self-beautification could only be cradled by Gina's quiet but stealth quickstanding.
Quicksanding.
I feel like if you're going to use a word, an unfamiliar word in a sentence, you shouldn't use other
Big words around
to,
it?
Right.
to
Yeah.
describe it.
Thanks, Urban Dictionary.
Yeah.
And thanks, Tim.
And thanks to our sponsor, 1-800-Flowers.
Whoa.
Bye, Lawrence.
We were supposed to present those to you.
Oh, I didn't.
Aw.
No, I wanted to present them to you.
Yeah. We wanted
Oh,
to
well,
bachelor
it's
this
I
place
like-
up.
Yeah, I like how this coffee table is covered in cheese, empty bottles,
syrup.
Dayquil, and tissues.
Everything you need for a night of romance.
But now it's completely redeemed because we have a vase full of roses.
course.
Exactly.
Roses.
Of course.
From our fine sponsor. And if you would... Hold on a minute. Oh, wait. Hold on.
He's got it.
Hold on a minute.
Uh-huh.
I'll click on down to 3. We've seen the first 2 already. There we go. All right. So yes, this podcast is sponsored by 1-800-Flowers, and they would urge you to not delay accounting for Valentine's Day because it is coming up. You can order your flowers now and just have them all set and ready to go, ready to be delivered. All you have to do is go into 1-800-Flowers.com, the official florist of Valentine's. I didn't know that could happen, but they have declared it, and thus it shall be. They say they have great deals on elegant and stunning bouquets that are sure to wow her or him. Come on, 1-800-Flowers. Right now, you can order 18 radiant red roses for only $29.99 or upgrade to 24 for just $10 more. And that is the beautiful display you see before you. So to order 18 red roses for only $29.99 or upgrade to 24 for $10 more, please go to 1-800-flowers.com/dudesoup. That's 1-800-flowers.com/dudesoup. They would urge you to not wait and go ahead and order that now. I would agree. It's good best to just get that shit out of the way while you're thinking about it. And man, let me tell you, people don't give people flowers anymore.
That's true.
So if you have a significant other, you'll blow their minds. Blow their little minds.
Then you can send flowers to Bicycle Jane.
Yeah. How's she going to get out? She
She's
got to
the
throw
girl-
flowers down and step on them.
She's the girl that's stuck in the quicksand right
Oh,
here.
no.
No. Oh God.
Can I just say it really ruins the illusion? And I don't have a dog in this fight, but it really ruins the illusion for me when you see that the person who's going to go get quicksanded is already dirty up to their knees.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
because they were.
She should be
testing
totally
Because
clean.
it means that they should be clean. I
should
mean,
be
even if you
totally-
test it, I understand you have to test it to make sure it's safe or not safe, whatever you want. But get off, hose off, put on some new clothes,
Oh God.
something, and get in
Now
there.
I'm worried.
She's
Bicycle
really
Jane is
getting down
stuck.
there.
Yeah.
Viscous.
See, it's so
Do people
perilous.
accept like snow? Can you do like?
No, snow doesn't count.
That's
It
gotta be-
doesn't- Look, this is like.
I mean,
chocolate
if
pudding.
you're
Yeah.
if you're trying to walk through
No.
like 3 feet deep
At least it has to be
snow,
sticky. It has to stick to you.
At least that's probably another fetish. Just,
mean, it's
just so
tough.
you're aware. I'm sure it's a separate
It's
It
thing.
not
must have
easy.
something to do with completely immersing them.
Maybe
right?
I'm more nervous. For
You
her.
want?
well, it's gooey too, you know.
Yeah, she's gonna be all sticky and stuff after.
No, Bicycle Jane, you can't do that. It doesn't work that way. It's quicksand.
All I
Is
can.
it-
Oh God.
And maybe the.
No, you. Well, I was gonna say, do men do it? Are there any videos of men getting
Goodness no.
quicksanded?
I said it's part of it's a subset of the women in peril.
I
kink.
bet there's men doing
Did you see how
quicksanding.
offended Lawrence was?
Google
I
man.
asked that
Oh
question.
heavens, no!
Men quicksand. I'm sure there
Figure
is.
it out.
There's still another two and a
We're
half
gonna,
minutes
we're
of
gonna
this.
we're gonna end up seeing someone die, and I don't want to see that.
No, we're not. Not on YouTube.
All I can think of in that scene is
Movie
the
trailer?
never-ending story. Artax, the horse.
Yeah, the Swamp of Sorrows.
Yeah, sad. Ooh, hello.
I did find a oh goodness.
Oh, there's a movie scene around
Yeah.
it.
I think this is just a porno.
It's definitely
No.
a porno.
No, this because that's
porn lighting.
That's Batgirl.
I like imagining that Tim Schafer is also watching this video right now.
Well, you just kept going down the.
I guess for our audio listeners right now, we're watching a woman in a skimpy outfit.
Oh, it's Catwoman.
Yeah, see, I told you it's Batgirl and Catwoman.
Yeah,
Is that
no.
Batgirl? Doesn't have the bat symbol on her belt.
it looks to be like a bad porno parody, except it's for people who have a quicksand
Going
fetish.
into the quicksand.
What's the trick to getting out of quicksand? There's a trick, I thought.
you just
right?
lay back.
Batgirl's
like,
right
slide
out.
out.
Grab
Well,
it.
you just don't sink any further, but yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just,
you-
just
when
When
you
you
back.
struggle, you're pushing away
Right.
stuff that
Because you don't want to push down like Bicycle
No.
Jane was doing.
yeah.
No, that's why she kept going lower. She was
Right,
struggling
right.
against it.
Oh,
was
so
churning
you
it.
just lay down.
you just kind of go limp,
Well,
and then things will settle around you.
Like
which
sex.
means
Yeah, if you go
won't-
perpendicular or basically
Yeah.
lay parallel to the mud,
Yeah, you want to fill
Yeah.
up as much surface area as possible.
And then
Right.
you just start eating.
Yeah.
and then you
Chewing
start
your way
eating.
out.
you eat your way out.
I did see a video of a lady in lingerie in quicksand earlier today. And you could pretty much see full nip right through that lingerie. So I don't know how they
You
got away with
act
that
like
on
you saw
YouTube.
that coincidentally.
I know.
Like, oh, I was on the train and
You
I
search
saw.
for full nip quicksand.
I'm just surprised that it came up. Usually it doesn't. So it must be a
Come
new
on,
upload.
Batgirl, you're smarter than that.
Yeah. Use your gadgets.
Where's the batarang so she can pull herself out of there?
She just starts throwing batarangs at the wall.
She gets her hand stuck.
Yeah.
And reaches down.
I'm wearing my mask. I feel stupid.
Well,
Oh yeah, now everybody knows who she
that
is.
feels like 4.5 hours. Is the podcast over?
good. No.
No.
We've killed a significant amount of time though, so
I really like that guy, Tim Schafer.
He's
I
going
really do.
places.
He's really
He's gonna become
whoa,
something someday.
jeez.
All right, well, they showed an obscene close up of her giant augmented breasts.
He's just a really
don't know that.
good. He's a good dude.
Yeah.
I produced him in a couple of interviews for G4
Oh,
too.
okay.
He's just a really nice guy, generally speaking. So I'm always happy. I wish I had played Psychonauts. I feel
I'm glad
bad.
to call him my best friend.
I was gonna say, but I've always been pulling for him because he's just a nice guy.
So funny too.
I mean, in addition to
Yeah,
the
so
Handsome.
funny.
Weird kinks, but
weird the stuff he's into. Yeah, it's I mean, apart from that, I think he deserves all the credit in the world for starting and maintaining a successful games company.
Absolutely.
Especially through, I think the last 10 years have been some of the most volatile for games makers and games publishers. They've survived the shift to crowdfunding and now like crowd investing.
Yeah.
I'm sure there were a lot of close calls in the meantime, but man, hats off to just keeping the lights on the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, and also like Double Fine doesn't make like huge AAA titles.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
they don't make any guarantees. They
Yeah.
they experiment with
That's
new
cool.
concepts and new
oh, and
ideas.
coming out as a publisher too.
I meant to ask. I forgot to ask. I was like, "Where's Costume Quest 3?"
Oh yeah, I still got stuck on the first one.
Really?
There's one damn house that I need candy from, and I can't find it.
Really?
It's such a fun game to play during Halloween.
yeah.
Because you're literally a game where you're trick or treating.
I just like
I played the
any.
first one.
I like any video game that takes place in modern or approximate modern times. That's just such a cool like trapping that most games don't opt for. I think for obvious reasons. Speaking of which, Yakuza 0 is pretty fucking great.
Oh yeah.
I want to play it.
We're gonna play it
wanna
soon.
Yeah, we're gonna play
I
it.
know we were gonna play it for the channel, so
I was telling you guys earlier, but I was going through Resident Evil this weekend, and like I played it in the least scary way because we've already played through the beginning part. And I had the lights on, and then like the washing machine was going, and then like I had the volume kind of down, because I was always just kind of like,
Turn the brightness way
that's
up.
so scary. But I got through one of the parts. There's a VHS part where I really like that mechanic where you experience someone's. Now I'm really concerned for Batgirl.
Yeah,
Don't worry, she'll get
It's
out.
fine.
God, I want to see that there's people on the side of the set that are.
There are.
Like,
Did you know the woman who
God.
played the Wicked Witch got her head caught in the thing and burned when they filmed it? So every time you watch Wizard of Oz and you see the witch go down, and then like for whatever happened, she's down there going, "Fuck, my head's stuck!"
Holy
and the
shit.
flames burning her hair away.
apparently, she was a lovely woman, and the woman who played the
Glenda?
the
Good Witch?
the good witch was like a total cunt to everybody.
Oh, really?
Finish
Yeah.
your Resident Evil talk, because I also want to talk about Carrie Elwes. I want to talk about Carrie Elwes in Princess Bride. But
There was a part though in like Resident Evil where it's one of the Mia flashback tapes.
Yeah.
And there's the old woman who's like looking for you, and it's just full on stealth.
Yeah.
But it's not a glitch, but it's a weird thing where when it becomes a video game, when she notices you and then she like chases you down or whatever, she drops her lantern and it's almost comical.
Oh yeah.
She goes, "Ah, girl!" You're like, okay, stop being scary.
There's
But like I said, also I'm playing in the least
Resident
scary
Evil's
way possible.
always had that trade-off though.
Yeah.
It's always walking a fine line between actual horror and intentional B-grade Western schlock, which I've always loved about it.
I wish they would rename it, just call it Resident Evil instead of Resident Evil 7. Like I wish this was the reboot of the series, because it kind of feels like that one part when we got to it when we did our gameplay, but when you get to the mansion and you're like, oh, this is like when you that's like how, I don't know.
Well, they kind of did. They snuck the Roman 7 in the logo, so it's just a clean Resident Evil when you look at it.
That's true.
And they called it
Yeah.
Biohazard, so they subtitled it like the first one.
Like I said, I really like it though. I like where I hope this is like a fresh start for it, because I like where it's going.
Japanese
Elise
game
and
dev has
I
been on a hot
are
streak. It's awesome.
pretty far in. I think
Yeah.
we're close to being too close to the end of the game.
Still scary. It's still scary so far in.
I still think it's so much better when it's not trying to be an action game. And I think it does some stuff where it's like padding. I know it's like padding, because I think they're like, we have a solid 4.5 hour thing here, but we don't want to charge people for that. Rightly so. Completely rightly so. So like, we're going to put stuff in where you have to kind of backtrack, and when you backtrack, there'll be bad guys. We're going to make the bad guys confusing to kill and stuff like that. But none of it is as scary like once you get like a good weapon or something.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the scary things, the first time you see them, you're like, oh my god! But then later on, you're like, oh, I hope this room is filled with these guys,
so
because
I can
then I
kill
can
them.
just blow their heads off,
Yeah.
and then that'll be the end of it.
How much jump scare stuff is there?
It still keeps going. But the thing is, later on, those VHS tapes are awesome.
Oh, man.
They're so good.
The puzzles in them are really cool too.
Because they use it in a different way later in the game, and they're like kind of optional. I think they're optional because I didn't learn anything about the narrative that I was experiencing. But you just like, those old rednecks filmed a lot of stuff.
Oh.
And so there's tape you find where it's like labeled like some guy found some guy trespassing. And then so they basically strap a camera to him and then make him do like a weird test, right? Like
Yeah.
a weird test of intelligence.
That's all you
kinda.
really need to know.
Yeah, but it's like kind of like Saw, I guess, in some ways. It's like a weird let's see if he can do it. And man, if they had just they were like, we don't know how to integrate this into the main storyline other than you just find VHS tapes all over the place and then you can play them, and then that'll buffer the game by a couple hours. That would be so because it doesn't have to tie in at all. It's just they're all really fun puzzles that are really cool.
I haven't really looked into the DLC yet, but I imagine that will be a feature of it. But back to Carrie Elwes in the fire swamp in Princess Bride. Do you know that he does his own stunt when he jumps down into the quicksand head first?
You told us that.
Yeah, and it could have
tell
been
us that
really
every
dangerous for Carrie, because they had to open that trap door at the exact moment. And they said, Carrie, you want a stuntman? And he said, it's okay.
Why did they
I'll
have
do
to
it.
open it at the
And they said,
exact
"Good, we
moment?
can't afford it. This is a
Yeah.
low budget film."
Because otherwise he hits his head.
Well, the irony is, if
on
he had
the
injured
door.
himself, he would have fucked the entire production. So
Yeah.
that's why it's done.
That's kind of greedy
yeah
for him.
Damn
Oh.
you, Carrie.
I was back to Resident Evil 7. We have a Resident Evil 7 gameplay
Yeah.
going up in a few days, and I don't think I've ever had a physical experience quite like that playing it in VR.
Yeah.
Because the game itself is already pretty scary, just generally on a computer monitor or whatever else you're playing on. But that VR headset, that makes it an entirely different experience that I've never had on any other video game. And this is the only game so far that's kind of convinced me. It was like, oh, I could see myself playing this for more than just a few minutes.
It's just exhausting.
It is
though.
exhausting and it's nauseating. Like it made Adam and I both sick. And I don't typically get sick from VR. I honestly think it was more the visuals.
You might
I think
want
it
to
was,
try turning off smooth turning because
That might
hit
be
my
it too.
That hit my stomach pretty
Yeah.
hard. Turning in angles is annoying, but it did help me. I mean, that's an axiom that I think a lot of VR devs are approaching is that smooth motions really fuck with people, but blinking places like quick turning or teleporting to
Yeah.
locations tends to dissuade a lot of that.
I think the game would be. I'm curious to see how the Vive is going to incorporate it. If you can do, if it's going to be room scale, and if
Oh,
there's
yeah.
going to be like warping or some sort of movement or something similar to like how we did Don't Blink, how that one was.
Oh, yeah.
Where there's like the subtle movements you can do.
Yeah.
But man,
Is it not 1-to-1 enough in PlayStation VR then?
PlayStation VR I thought was a little too low res. I mean, and whatever. It's how much is that headset?
I don't remember.
It's crazy cheaper than the
It's
other.
still-
two,
That's what,
for
I mean,
sure.
yeah. Comparatively,
it's still good though. I mean, like, and
No,
it
no,
didn't-
it's-
like the game itself was good, so
Yeah.
that's what made the headset good too.
the hardest thing with VR is the frame rate. It's got to stay at a pretty smooth. The minute it starts skipping frames is when it
Yeah, it
really
really fucks
gets
with you.
bad. I'm just curious for my problem is the sitting motion. If I want to be playing a sitting game, it needs to be like a I don't know, like a some kind of plane simulator
car.
or
Oh,
like
okay,
a
yeah.
spaceship or car. Yeah,
Like you're actually sitting in something for real.
dangerous.
you want your representation in virtual reality to be identical to
Right.
what
Yeah.
you're doing in
So
reality.
when
yeah.
you are moving in VR,
But
you're
sitting.
your feet are, you're sitting down. There is a disconnect, and
Yeah.
you don't like that. And with the room scale, that's why it's a completely different experience. When it's like, that's why you always see people running into walls and like punching the ceiling stuff because they actually believe they're there. With Resident Evil and the PlayStation thing is like, I just see that as a screen. That's all it really is. It's a good screen. It's not bad, but man, I want that room scale to work.
I think we're gonna get into a situation with PSVR, maybe more than Oculus and Vive, where it kind of reminds me of like the Wii hardware, like incredibly underpowered. Great developers are gonna do amazing things with it.
Yep.
That like blows like Super Mario Galaxy. You look at that game and you're like,
see.
like this game looks amazing.
Yeah.
Like this game looks like not in terms of realism, but like there's Uncharted and there's like Mario Galaxy, and they're both amazing. I would say that Mario Galaxy will probably look better longer than Uncharted might, but like just like in terms of what they've done with the hardware, they maximized it and stuff like this. I think we're gonna get some PSVR developers who are doing that. They're using it to the best possible thing, but then we're going to get a lot of them who don't want to put in that extra homework. And then I think we're going to see like some PSVR games that are just kind of like
Nothing.
why is this $60? This barely even works.
Yeah.
Like it's not immersive at all. It's going to feel even more so like screens right in front of you.
Yeah.
Well,
The Resident Evil really hit the home run though.
Well, that's the I think that's the important thing about Resident Evil's legacy is that it is a game that you can play entirely in VR that isn't really, it's not exactly being marketed that way right now, but that's why we're getting closer to like where we were 10 years ago when it was like, or further, when it was Nintendo VR, Virtual Boy or whatever, like, look, it's VR. It's like, not really.
Yeah.
Not even close.
You had to use your imagination
Yeah.
to make it good.
And now we're getting to the point where it's like you can play a full 14-hour experience or whatever in a virtual reality world, and like it's getting closer and closer. That's what I like. I like that the baby steps are starting to become strides.
That's something that like seems almost exclusive to the media of video games. Like there's this thing where it's like fill in the blanks with your imagination, and then eventually you don't have to anymore. Because like you'd play Bionic Commando. You're like, I'm swinging. It's like, well, not really. You're not really swinging. What you're doing is fun, but you're not really swinging. 10 years later, there's a game where you are swinging the way you imagined yourself swinging when you were playing Bionic Commando.
Yeah.
You know?
See that? I think there are some similarities in special effects and look and film. There are things I think that you could get close to with practical effects or limited special effects. But then, I don't know, starting in the late 90s and on, it just completely changed the way movies were made and how they look.
Well, yeah, I think it changed how the movies were made, but you can watch an old movie that has a matte painting in the background, and you're not like, look at that wall drawn with stuff on it. You're still like, you're still bought into it. You know, it's just kind of a different. The filmmakers knew to avoid things that they couldn't do. They would just not do them.
But I see what you're saying though, because like with like Spider-Man, it was okay. PlayStation 1 had a Spider-Man game where he can kind of swing around and there's a little bit of fog, and then it became like Web of Shadows where, oh wow, now I'm actually swinging on New York and I'm on the floor.
He is Spider-Man.
And then we're gonna get this new PS4 game from Insomniac where it's like, okay, it's slightly better, and then give another 10 years, you're gonna put on some glasses and you're swinging around New York yourself. And then, you kill yourself because you'll never have that happiness again.
Yeah. You don't have that upper body strength. But what you can have are delicious chocolate-covered strawberries from Sherry's Berries.
That's what I wanted to do.
I set him up. He knocks him down.
Thank you. Just bang, bang. So again, Valentine's Day around the corner. What better way to surprise your significant other than with freshly dipped strawberries from Sherry's Berries? They start at just $19.99 plus shipping, or you can double the order for $10 more. They are decadent, fresh, juicy, sweet, shareable, and irresistible. I just love reading adjectives, so I'll continue to do so. You can choose berries that are dipped in tempting white chocolate, milk, and dark chocolatey goodness. They can be topped with chocolate chips, decorative swizzles, and chopped nuts.
Ooh.
Boy, you can go wild customizing the shit out of your berries. So with Valentine's Day right around the corner, there's only one way to get Sherry's Berries starting at $19.99, and that's to go to berries.com, berries.com. Click on the microphone in the upper right. It's a little orange microphone symbol, and type in dude space soup. So DUDE space SOUP. Put in our little code, and that'll unlock the offer for you. Sherry's Berries starting at $19.99, and you can double your offer for only $10 more. So please check that out, and don't hesitate. Get that stuff all scheduled and ready to go today, so you just don't have to worry about it. And then it's almost like a gift to yourself later when your significant other or best friend or whatever is like, oh my God, you're so thoughtful. And you're like, I guess I was. It only takes a second to do. So I think any friend or loved one in your life would really appreciate it. So we recommend you do that now. Once more, that's berries.com, berries.com. Click on that microphone and type in dude soup. So thank you for your sponsorship, Berries.
Lawrence, are they going to send some to us?
I hope so. We got some last year.
Yeah.
Those berries are huge.
And they're great.
Yeah. They're massive.
They're so good.
I hope so. But to close out, I got a Resident Evil related mind freak for you guys.
Mind
right.
freaks. I love
I
mind
alluded
freaks.
to this.
It's a
I
freak
got
of the
one
week.
question about that too before we move on.
About berries?
About Resident Evil.
Oh,
Are
and
any of you
berries.
guys playing on PlayStation Pro or the 4
Yes,
Pro?
I am.
No.
I'm playing on PC.
I'm playing on an Xbox One S.
So Lawrence, is the Pro any better? Have you noticed?
I don't know for sure.
Specifically VR, I
I
guess?
haven't looked it up because I've only been playing it on Pro.
We tried playing it on my PlayStation, and that's broken.
Yeah, that wouldn't turn on. That's
So
not
yes, yours is better.
good. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the difference is. There are VR games that run at higher resolutions on PSVR because the screen can support a resolution that most games don't even run at still, even though it's just 720. I think. I'm throwing a lot of things from memory here, but yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the PS4 Pro benefits are, aside from just feeling superior generally.
So gross.
But my mind freak for you guys is mind freak. Yeah, mind freak. It occurred to me a while back. There's a certain arc that most horror movies take, or there's an arc emotionally that I feel while watching a horror movie or horror narrative, and there's like certain beats that they all hit. And this has been dissected and understood to death by horror fans, and I'm certainly not one of those. Like I don't intellectually know. Like most horror movies even have down to the trope, the names of the characters all written out, and Cabin in the Woods did a good job setting all that up. But there is this flow where you start a horror movie and there's some unknown, unexplained terror that either is killing people or haunting people, whatever. But it's the unknowing of it that causes such distress. And then over the course of the film, there's a gradual acquaintance and then ultimately an understanding where you either get the backstory of this hideous killer or you get the tragic story that led to this ghost going around killing people. You gain some root understanding of the nature of the evil or the horror that you're fighting, and then that ultimately empowers a final girl or a hero to overcome that evil, or to die entirely, just depending on how the movie goes. But typically, there's a turning point where you start to
Real
understand
quick, what
things.
movie is everyone thinking of right now when he's describing like the broadest horror
House on
movie of all
Haunted
time?
Hill.
I'm thinking of The Ring.
So I'm thinking of Hammer on Elm Street for a specific reason.
That's what I was thinking of.
Remember?
Yeah.
Interesting. What movie were you thinking of, Lawrence?
All of them.
Yeah.
I guess I was thinking of Halloween most recently. There's that twist. You learn who Michael Myers
Oh
is.
yeah.
From H2O.
Yeah, and that doesn't
Jason
really.
X.
No. Halloween, 20 years later.
So one of the things that I found fascinating, I think this is mostly incidental, that mostly came from Alone in the Dark, is that horror games work by disenfranchising you as a player. Like your character doesn't move fast. You don't have a lot of resources. And scarcity is a form of horror. But I think also the same arc happens mechanically in a horror video game. So you as a player become more savvy to the mechanics. You start to understand vision cones and how many shots exactly it takes to kill monsters. So you start to pave over your shock and terror with understanding and kind of rote memorization. Like, oh, that's a zombie, I shoot it 3 times and it dies. Or I can skate around it by walking at it at this angle and then it does this animation. So something that was terrifying is no longer a threat. I always thought it was really cool that horror games in particular can recreate the emotion of watching a scripted piece of content. Some action games kind of do the same thing, but it's not necessarily an arc. It's like if you play a scripted sequence in COD, you feel awesome because there's a lot of explosions. But I always loved that horror games throughout their runtime could also mimic the narrative feeling of watching another form of media. And I feel like Resident Evil 7 intrigues me because you guys were talking about how some of the health pools feel like they're almost random at times. And I feel like that may be an intentional attempt to prevent that sort of process from happening. So you don't, when you encounter Mulder, you never think, I shoot it 3 times in the head and it's going to die. Because sometimes you shoot it 8 times in the head and it's still fucking hitting you. So that, it's weird how that kind of can cross the line between frustration because you thought you mechanically understood a part of the video game and what seems like the designer's attempt to keep confusing you about the enemies you're fighting.
Well, for me, that's more realism too. Because every enemy you encounter, realistically will be different. So even if they're the same creature or whatever, it's not going to be, 3 shots to the head and that'll do it. That is more realistic in my opinion, typically.
I guess you're right, yeah.
Well, I think where the game succeeds is currently right now is like they can make just a normal enemy feel like a boss fight, which is kind of Dark Souls-y a little bit. That I really like. It's like, you got to be very careful with this. Like, you sure you want to use 5 bullets on this guy? Might be 8, who knows? Could be 3 and might be a bonus. That's fantastic. But it's pretty cool that it's like, it's sort of the thing when you become desensitized when you're just overbearing with enemies, and then you're right, you gamify it, and then it becomes a video game, and then it's not scary anymore. But when there's like 3 monsters, Molders, like in a room, and you have 20 bullets, you're like, oh, I don't know what to do, and then it has like a genuine frantic moment where you're trying to get your key out to open a boiler room so you can get through before these 3 things attack you. Yeah. I was like, that's cool. It's succeeding for me in terms of being like a good horror game, but also just being a good game.
I don't really find the mold monsters scary. To me, the game keeps upping its stakes with like the videotapes and the fact that like goddamn grandma still hasn't done anything yet.
Oh yeah,
she's always just there, and
eyes
rolling in her head.
She's the only one I trust.
She's just sitting in a corner sometimes, and you're like, she's awake.
She's in places where wheelchairs can't get. That's the scariest thing.
I didn't think about that.
So she's probably gonna come into the inn, I would assume, right?
No, grandma's the only good guy. I trust grandma.
Grandma's a good guy.
I trust grandma.
There's just stuff that they do visually and atmospherically in that game that they've been doing it at this point, as far as I've been watching James, because I sure as hell cannot handle it myself. They've been doing the same shit for hours into this game with the oscillating fans casting shadows, your shadows, just everything. And it still is creeping me out every time he goes into a new room. I'm still creeped out and like completely just on edge, wondering what it could be.
Whatever AI is controlling the sound effects in that game is a monster. The visuals are great, but mother of God,
you weren't kidding.
They will just give you audio cues and there's nothing there. And that like you'll be like,
there is something there.
Sometimes there is, but a lot of times there isn't, but it does it so that way you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know if it's telling you that something is around the corner.
That's awesome.
One of the best moments.
Or if it's just wind on the window.
I knocked a pile of cans over and I jumped out of my chair.
Yeah.
I remember I was in the game proper and I heard really heavy footsteps and I was like, Resident Evil, you're not gonna fuck with me. And I turned the corner and Daddy was right there.
Oh yeah.
It's like, fuck me. And there wasn't a music sting or anything. He was just there.
Yeah.
And he was like, woo, I'm gonna get you. I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah, in the gameplay that you guys did, there's a part where Bruce is below him and he's walking above Bruce. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's such a good,
frightening,
good touch.
Well, they do this really interesting thing too, where you can down him, but he'll get back up. So you're exploring the house, but he's just walking around. You can get to areas where he can't get to you, but there's some areas like you want to go back to, and you can put 3 bullets in his head, he'll fall down, but then he'll get back up, and he's just a prevalent enemy. I'm like, that's kind of cool. That's
kind of like Alien Isolation.
Yeah, it is this persistent monster that's always chasing you, and like you can fight it, but you can't kill it. until the game tells you you can.
He's so scary.
He is creepy. Yeah, there's nothing like a
Still
southern
scares
gentleman
me.
chasing you.
Well, on that note, our damsel has finally
She
gotten
made it.
herself out of the quicksand.
She
She's
made it
washing
out.
herself
Unlike
off.
Bicycle Jane.
We
Bicycle
wandered
Jane,
into
she's
some
dead.
kind of narrative content involving ninjas and chicks that fight in quicksand. So
I saw them doing like fighting poses and
yeah.
stuff like that.
I'm not sure what's going on there.
You're right. There isn't a lot to do in Georgia.
Yeah, pretty much. I remember doing something similar to this when I was in high school, except we couldn't afford a camera.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want to watch what we're talking about, you can check out links in the description.
She got
just
stuck
got
again.
stuck
Oh, now
again.
she's
She got
stuck
stuck
in the
again.
river.
You just got stuck.
Gosh, she's just
Tune in
stuck
next
all the
week to
time.
find out what happens. Just kidding. We pre-recorded that because we're going to be in Australia.
Yeah. So yeah, we got the post show coming up. It's where we watch some, or we look at some fan art. We discuss matters of the day. We take questions live from the audience. So if you're watching live, please stay tuned for that. And if you're not watching live, maybe consider getting a first membership so you can get in on all the fun. And thank you guys for making the adjustment. We're earlier this week, and we will be early from now on. So 1 p.m. is our new starting time. In the cock block. Thanks, Elise.
You did it.
Does anybody want some cheese curds?
No.
I always want cheese curds.
Okay.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys next week, and stay tuned for the post show if you're watching.
Bye.
Bye, y'all. Thanks,
Yeah.
Tim Schafer.
They got real
Yes,
sweaty.
thank you, Tim Schafer. He describes an anti-anime bias, which I'm very concerned about.
Are there other anime games that are banned?
I'm glad you asked, Adam. Yes, in fact, a majority, in fact, of the banned games on Twitch are of the anime persuasion. Actually, let me look up a list real quick to make sure it is